book lovers, it is G-Swizz here, and I'm here today with the book recommendation tag. I've been seeing this tag make the rounds as of recently. It recently popped up in my YouTube recommended, and I thought to myself, well, this looks cool. I want to be in on it. So I've decided that I'm doing it for myself. I'm going to be answering all these prompts, and I'm very much looking forward to answering all these prompts. I don't think every single one of these prompts are actual recommendations. I mean, most of them are, but then one is an anti-recommendation prompt. We'll get to that. I thought to myself doing this tag would be very interesting, and I mean, I need more content ideas. What else can I say? So I guess without further ado, let's get straight into the tag. Starting off with prompt number 1, which is a book you tell people that is your favorite. In past years, I would always say the Divergent trilogy was my favorite, and you know what? It still holds a special place in my heart. I actually can't say at the moment with confidence what my favorite book or series is. I think that comes down to me having to reread every book series that I've ever considered to be a favorite and ranking them and figuring out what holds up now and what do I consider to be an all-time favorite. Choosing an all-time favorite is really difficult because as much as I love Divergent, I first read it 9 years ago. I could say Divergent is still in that spot, but if I'm gonna go with a recent favorite, one of my top favorites ever, I would definitely have to say the Bargainer trilogy by Laura Falasa. Now, this is not me saying that this is like the all-time favorite, that's it. No, I actually have a few more favorites. However, they're gonna be mentioned throughout this video. I do also love the Malediction trilogy and the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy. There are so many book series that I consider to be the best of the best, but it's just really difficult for me to decide at the moment. However, as of recently, I think because this has been my favorite book series I've read recently, I have been recently telling people that this is my favorite. Every single time someone is asking for a new fantasy romance or is wanting something that's similar to the fantasy romance out there, I always bring them back to The Bargainer. I feel like this book is constantly in my conversations. I've had people ask me, the 12 friends recommend me 12 books challenge. For their challenges, for their prompts, I've recommended Rhapsodic. This is the book that I've been going around recommending to people the most as of recently, and this is the book that I've been telling people as of recently is my favorite. That all being said, the Divergent series still means a lot to me, and it's still one of my favorite series of all time. It's just that I believe at the moment the best solution to my problem here is to reread every book series I consider to be a favorite. I've got to prioritize doing that sometime, but I mean, my TBR is huge, so I don't know if that's going to be anytime soon. This is still a great series, and I do consider this to be one of the best series I've read. I mean, that's just my opinion on the independently published editions. Let's see how I go with the traditionally published editions. Prompt number 2 is a book that is your guilty pleasure. If you've been following me recently, you would know that this is my answer. The Bonds That Tie series is a full-on guilty pleasure because I know that this is completely unrealistic. I also say that it's a guilty pleasure because as much as I very much enjoy the plot and I enjoy, you know, the story and the characters and whatnot, there are some moments where I completely disagree with what has happened. I'm pretty sure everyone who has read the first book knows what I'm referring to here, and I have talked about that previously. However, I love this series as a whole, and even though that one thing I'm still uneasy about, I still think fondly of the series, not as a whole, but just when I look back at my experience, I think, well, that was a compelling read. I really enjoyed the series. This first book was a bully romance. I've heard, based on those who have read Zodiac Academy, that it doesn't go as far as Zodiac Academy, so it's making me even more nervous about Zodiac Academy, but at least I'm preparing myself for Zodiac Academy, thanks to people telling me that. That all being said, this first book is not perfect whatsoever, and to those who are nervous about continuing on with the series, but still kind of like the premise, I would suggest continuing on with book 2, because book 2, I'd have to say, is my favorite book in the series. You don't have to continue on with the series. It's not everyone's thing, but it's definitely a guilty pleasure of mine, and look, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to absolutely everyone. It's definitely an acquired taste, but yeah, call me a raccoon because I really, really loved this trash. Prompt number 3, a book that everyone loved, but you didn't. Okay, so technically this is not an everyone thing, but this is everyone who has read Katie Robert thing. I feel like everyone who has read Katie Robert loves the Sea Witch, and I hate it. I despise it. I gave this book a 1 star, and the reason why I gave it a 1 star was because the power imbalance in here was so apparent, and the characters, in my personal opinion, did not have chemistry. Like, yeah, maybe Elric and Ursa had chemistry together and stuff. They should have been their own thing, and they should have let Ariel, or Zuriel, whatever her name was, they should have let her do her own thing as well, because they pretty much used her. They manipulated her. I hate it. And the fact that, I don't know, they keep on putting it back on her. I'm so done with these two. And I hate Ursa in particular, because Ursa is just one of those characters that are just like, I'm strong, I'm independent, I'm this, I'm that, but she's not special. She keeps on talking about herself as if she's special. No, Ursa, you're not. And Alaric, he's a jerk. Zuri deserved so much better. And whenever I see a review about people talking about how Zuri was annoying, she was put through a lot thanks to these two. I could not personally imagine what Zuri was feeling. I honestly just wished her all the happiness. I honestly think that this dynamic was completely unhealthy. And yes, I have read romances where the protagonist has been betrayed by the love interest. I mean, the Demon Queen Trials, From Blood and Ash, The Cruel Prince. I've read a few of them. The difference between those series and this series is that this series takes place within a week or two. They expected so much from Zuriel, and I'm not okay with it. Anyway, I get worked up about this book. And look, I love Katie Robert. This is not me tearing Katie Robert down as a writer, because Katie Robert is a great writer. It's just, out of all ways that The Little Mermaid could have been reimagined, this was probably the worst way. As much as I love the Wicked Villain series, this book, 1 star. Prompt number 4 is the book that you read the fastest. So I have too many books that I read like within one day. I read books pretty fast sometimes, and that is especially when I am compelled, but I specifically remember the moment I inhale read Red Winter by Annette Marie. I was in the middle of a nationwide lockdown. It was our second lockdown, and it was my first lockdown in this apartment, and I had binge read this trilogy within 48 hours. And I'm still so obsessed with this trilogy, but I don't talk about it as much. It is one of my favorites. It's one that I would highly recommend to those who are wanting something new, and I love the printed editions because there are also illustrations, and as you can see, they're absolutely gorgeous. I am just so in love. I love Red Winter. I devoured this, and I think it makmakes the perfect quick read. Prompt number 5, a book that deserves more hype. I could not say this enough. The Blood Trials deserves a lot more hype than it has been getting. I remember when I first read this, it was around like 4 to 5 months after its release, and barely anyone reviewed it on Goodreads, and it made me so sad because this book deserved so much love, and it still does deserve a lot of love. And honestly, yes, I do need to refresh myself on the Goodreads ratings at the moment, because last time I checked, it was not getting enough buzz, it was not getting enough hype. I'm saying that The Blood Trials, the first book specifically, deserves a lot of hype, and I'm hoping that The Blood Gift deserves the same amount of hype based on how it's written. I really need to read it. Prompt number 6, a book that's becoming a movie or a TV show. I do not pay attention to adaptation news, honestly, but I do know that Percy Jackson is going to become a TV show, and I believe in this instance you're going to want to read the book before going into the adaptation. I wish that I reread the Percy Jackson books. The reason why I'm not showing them physically is because I've put them above my bookshelves, because yes, I'm running out of shelf space. So I decided to put all my classic series up above next to Vampire Academy and Poison Study series and just a few other series. All my Rick Riordans are above my shelf at the moment. I love Rick Riordan's writing, and I love Percy Jackson. I love Percy Jackson as a character, and I just love all the books. So I would recommend the series if you haven't read it yet. If you've been living under a rock, please read it. I am technically Percy's age. Fun fact. The books literally were published the years that I was like Percy Jackson's age. It's interesting. But honestly, it's kind of weird to picture Percy Jackson as a 27-year-old. Prompt number 7, a book that you have reread the most. And I've talked about this in a recent video. The book that I've reread the most is Chosen Ones by Veronica Roth. Divergent or Insurgent would have made it. Maybe I've read Divergent a few more times. However, what I do know based on my Goodreads recordings, Chosen Ones is my most read book. Unless we're counting the Bible, because my parents and I did Bible reading 13 years in a row. I've technically read the Bible 13 times. Cover to cover. Yeah, that was a thing. I grew up evangelical. But if we're talking about based on my Goodreads, Chosen Ones by Veronica Roth is the book that I've recorded as read the most. Also, I've just noticed that my nails match this book, and I love that because this is one of my favorite books ever, so I'm really happy that I have Chosen One's nails today. Prompt number 8, a book from a genre that you don't typically read. And the book that I have to mention for this prompt is The Diviners, or the Diviner series by Libba Bray. This technically counts as a horror book series, which is incredible because I never usually read horror, and I actually was very hesitant to go into this book series. However, I could not resist purchasing these beautiful Bookish Box special editions, so I decided to to purchase them, and oh my goodness, I'm so happy I did, because I ended up purchasing one of my favorite book series of all time now in a special edition set. Like, that's really cool. Kind of looking back at it, I was so scared to read the series, and I am honestly so happy that I challenged myself to, because the storytelling is excellent. The fact that Libba Bray spent around 10 years crafting this series out, it really does show in the series. I mean, I do have to mention that the finale does feel a little bit rushed, but you can really tell that Libba Bray put her time and effort into the entire quartet, and I very much appreciate it. As a reader, it was so interesting to see an author put quality over quantity here. I am so impressed, and I cannot wait to read more books by Libba Bray. I am planning on reading the Gemma Doyle trilogy, even though I think that that is also a horror. I'm nervous about that one, but at the very same time, I'm less nervous about it because I've read the Diviner series and I kind of know what to expect from Libba Bray's writing. And you know what? I think I'm gonna read her contemporaries as well. Prompt number 9 is a book that deserves all the hype that it gets. And I would have to say, hands down, This Vicious Grace by Emily Theed. I have 3 copies of this book already. I love this book so much. You guys have no idea. No, actually, you probably do, because I talk about it a lot. It definitely ended up on my favorites list of last year. I am also just blown away that this was a debut novel, because I actually went into it not knowing what to expect. I literally just received it in my monthly fairy loot. I was like, okay, well, we'll try this out, we'll check this out, and it blew me away. I ended up devouring this book within a day. I could not put it down. It was just very well written, and it was very well paced. I hear from some people that they say that it's really slow, and you know what? I actually agree with that. I agree that this book is very slow. However, This Vicious Grace is the first book in a duology, and I have to say, if the second book also has a similar pace, I would not be mad, because at least the duology was not rushed. I really hope, fingers crossed, that the second and final book in the last Fenestra series blows me away, because this book absolutely blew me away, and I was so shocked throughout it all. I just really need to know what happens next, and I hope that everything turns out to be alright, because I do not want a rushed conclusion, and I don't want another book series to contribute to the duology problem that I've been talking about recently, because I'm done with rushed duologies. I'm done with unnecessary duologies. When I say that, I'm so done with duologies that could have been a standalone. So I'm hoping that The Last Fenestra really blows me away. However, that all being said, the first book deserves all the hype that it gets. Prompt number 10, a book you usually recommend when someone asks for a recommendation. It's always Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Lady Taylor. Ever since rereading this book series, I have fallen in love, and I realized that everyone who appreciates fantasy will have some sort of appreciation for this book series. I am honestly so happy that I recommended it to my husband, because if he never read it, he would not have discovered his favorite fantasy series. Yes, Daughter of Smoke and Bone is Camilo's favorite fantasy series, and you guys have no idea how happy that made me, because this series was a very long, dense, and intense journey. A lot of emotion went into my reread of it. I'm saying reread because I first read this series at the wrong time. I would not actually recommend this to younger readers who are wanting something that's like a forbidden romance, because as much as the draw for the series is like, you know, the angel and devil fall in love and it did not end well, I read it at the wrong time. I read it when I was like 19 or 20, and I was just looking for something similar to the Mortal Instruments, and I did not get that. However, to those who are currently my age, or who are seasoned readers, or who are just looking for something completely new and are open-minded, I always recommend Daughter of Smoke and Bone to them. And if they don't want to read something like Daughter of Smoke and Bone, then I will recommend the Bargainer trilogy, or I will recommend something that's a lot less complex than Daughter of Smoke and Bone. However, to readers who are wanting something fresh, something new, and to be transported into another world, Daughter of Smoke and Bone, this entire trilogy, is perfect for that. Prompt number 11 is a book that features your favorite characters. And for my answer to this prompt, I have to mention something that's a lot less dense and intense than the previous ones. My answer for this one is the Bromance Book Club by Lyssa Kay Adams. This series is so pure. It is so wholesome. I cannot get over it. Oh my goodness. I love these characters so much. I read the series just purely for the characters, purely for the interactions. They are just hilarious. I understand that this series is so cheesy to some people, and yeah, maybe the guys are unrealistic because they are written by Lyssa Kay Adams, who is a woman. However, I cannot help myself with the series, and I just love gushing about the series to Camilo. I've gushed about the series so much to Camilo that even he wants to read it, and I've told him if he wants to read a romance novel, then yes, like I would recommend the Bromance Book Club and the rest of the books in the series, but that's just like, that's completely up to him, because I understand that, you know, not everyone is into romance. Camilo's not usually into romance, but this is the series that I would recommend to him because it's so funny. I just absolutely adore these characters so much. I love the love interests that are in the series, and I love the healthy dynamics that are explored. There are some moments that I am not a fan of. I didn't really like something that happened in book 3, but that was nothing to do with the love love interest themselves. That was to do with like external characters and family and whatnot. However, what I love about the series so much is the found family aspect of it and just everyone coming together and everyone just being there for each other. This book series is perfect and the characters in the series absolutely perfect. Also, once again, the nails match the jeans. I'm really liking these nails. Prompt number 12 is a book that you wish you could live in. And this is so odd. I think it's because I've just gotten really nostalgic about this book series recently. I know this is not actually an ideal world to live in. This question was hard. I was actually discussing this with Camilo and I said to him, if there was a world I could actually like really live in and see myself being safe in the world, it would probably be in the world of The Way of the House Husband because that's the easy option. But if I was to talk about like a fantasy or paranormal world that I could see myself fitting in, not really, I don't think I would fit into this world, but I would just want to be there to experience it. That's the Crave series by Tracy Wolff. Now, okay, so I never grew up with Harry Potter. Like, I read Harry Potter when I was 20 because my parents, once again, I mentioned this before in the video, I'll mention it again. I grew up evangelical. So my parents never allowed me to read Harry Potter. And I mean, I've mentioned Percy Jackson in this tag. I'm trying not to double up, but I would want to be in Camp Half-Blood if that was the case. However, if I wasn't allowed to double up in this tag, I would actually mention Katmere Academy. I would just love to be a spectator at Katmere Academy. I would just like to witness every paranormal person and their powers and just seeing how everyday school life goes in this academy. I just really like the boarding school setting, and I mean, I probably am not safe at Katmere Academy. I don't think anyone's safe at Katmere Academy, but I'd just like to see it, you know? Prompt number 13. A book that you thought that you would hate that you actually ended up loving. Now, the reason why I thought that I would have hated this book in particular was because I did not like the previous book in the series, but I am so happy to say that I love this book and would absolutely recommend it to those who did not like the second book in the series as well. That, my friends, is The Inadequate Heir by Danielle L. Jensen. This is the third book in the Bridge Kingdom series, and we are following a completely separate couple. I did not like the Traitor Queen whatsoever, and it was because Aaron just had too many red flags, and I'm really struggling to forgive him. But The Inadequate Heir, I went into it, and I kind of just expected it to be mediocre. Oh my goodness, Karis from The Inadequate Heir is everything Aaron wishes he could be. You know, like the meme where, you know, there's you, and then there's the guy that she tells you not to worry about. You would be Aaron, and the guy she tells you not to worry about is Karis. And I'm pretty sure some of you guys are aware that I love the Malediction trilogy by Danielle L. Jensen, so this might actually also come as a shock to you, but it was because the Traitor Queen really let me down. I actually thought that no book from Danielle L. Jensen would ever impress me again. And I am so happy to say that I am wrong, and that I am so looking forward to continuing on with the series. If you found the first two books in the Bridge Kingdom series to be mediocre, please continue on with The Inadequate Heir. This is a very thick book. It's probably double the size of Bridge Kingdom, and I'm so happy about that because we get so much relationship development and we get much more plot. And the second last prompt, prompt number 14, is a book that made you cry. Now, I could mention many. There are so many books that have made me cry, even from this recommendations list, but I have to say the one that really hits hard that I've read in recent years is The Warrior Witch by Danielle L. Jensen. This is the final book in the Malediction trilogy, and it's the ending that made me cry so much because it's one of those endings that just really tear you up, but at the same time, it puts you back together. Whenever I think about the series, I think about how painful that ending was, but also at the very same time, I think about how impactful and how incredible that ending was, to the point that I don't think I have ever read a series ending that made me sob so hard for days, but also made me so happy. I don't think I've ever read a more gut-wrenching ending, but I also have never read such a sweet ending. I don't know how to describe it. Everyone just needs to read it to understand why this ending is so impactful and why this ending would just never leave me. It's an ending that I have never seen ever. It was not an ending that I could predict. It blew me away, and I still think about it. I read this in January 2021, and I still tear up thinking about it. It's incredible how much time has passed and how much I still feel when I think about this ending. That all being said, I don't want that to scare you. Yes, I know I recommend the Malediction trilogy like non-stop here, but trust me, it's worth it. This is a great young adult fantasy romance series that I believe made me fall in love with fantasy romance. And finally, prompt number 15, a book that you wish you could read for the very first time. And honestly, for this prompt, there are so many books I could have chosen from, but I am just gonna say A Court of Silver Flames here. This book has left a long-lasting impact on me, similarly to the Malediction trilogy, similarly to The Bargainer, similarly to Divergent, and also Daughter of Smoke and Bone. As much as I appreciate the ACOTAR series, nothing from the ACOTAR series has impacted me as much as A Court of Silver Flames so far, and honestly, this book impacted me so much that I got help in my personal life, and I stopped isolating myself. I mean, that took time. It really did take time, but I started to build connections again. I started to build relationships again. It was so much that went into my personal life thanks to this book series, because I realized that I connected to Nesta on an emotional level, but also I could really relate to her on so many other levels. And I realized that through reading this book that I was strong and I was capable of doing anything if I put my mind to it. Also, seeing the healthy romance representation between her and Cassian was so lovely because both of them made compromises to keep the relationship healthy. And I love to see it. I wish I could go back for the first time and reread it. I was so unhappy back then. I was trapped in a job that I didn't care for, and I did not have the support around me that I needed. And I didn't let anyone in. But this book kind of changed majority of that for me. I mean, it took a while for me to find a new work environment and to find other healthy environments. Good things always take time. But this book was the start of that for me. This book made me realize that I could live a happy life. And I'm so happy to say it. I live a much happier life, and I believe that's because that this book came into my life. I wish I could re-experience it, even though it was such a painful experience the first time because of how much I could relate to Nesta. However, for some odd reason, I think I would do it again in a heartbeat. So I guess that's gonna be it for this video today, book lovers. I think I'm gonna tag some people for this, but I mean, as I'm pre-filming right now, I don't know who has posted their book recommendations tag, so I will be tagging people as this video goes up. So if you're tagged, you're tagged, but if you want to do this tag, then feel free to. And if you happen to stay till the end of the video, leave me the green heart emoji. And if you happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet already. Join the amazing community of book lovers. And also, I have social media. I'm at gswizzlebooks on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also Goodreads. That's www.goodreads.com/gswizzle. And finally, I'm at TikTok. I'm a gswizzle on TikTok if you want to follow me there for some bookish content. I love you, book lovers, and I will see you later. Peace.
Started out with half and I flipped it in a double. Started out with half and I flipped it in a double.